And so again, as I said with other labor discussions we had last year, I think I have to take that into account, and also making sure that the people who pay the bills to finance those jobs, that their interests are taken into account, and again, that we achieve a balancing act, be fair to the people who are paying the bills and be fair to the employees. But I start from the premise these are very good jobs that are well compensated and with generous benefits and generous pensions, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just saying it's a fact. I regret the fact that the most important thing is the animals are being well cared for, but I regret the fact that the zoo would be closed any day because of a labor dispute or for any other reason. However, the fact is that there's a labor dispute on. It was not the management that decided to initiate that, and the workers did, the union, and the union has done that notwithstanding the fact that these are excellent jobs that are well paid with generous benefits, a guaranteed pension, and so on. And so they'll have to decide as time goes forward how that sorts itself out. It's regrettable that the zoo might be closed. I hope it will be reopened by the holiday weekend, but it's regrettable if it isn't. But again, we have to be responsible in terms of how we look after the money of the citizens of Toronto. I think $11.6 million by way of a subsidy is very generous, and I think these jobs are very, very good jobs. And so I think if you start from that premise, then I guess the universe will unfold as it should in terms of the labor dispute. Well, I mean, I was strongly in favor, and I continue to be strongly in favor of the fact that in order to protect public safety, it is a perfectly appropriate thing to do, and so found as well, I believe, by the courts. And so I just think these tests will unfold. I'm not going to comment every time they put out a report on what the results are, but I think it is one tool that the TTC has to make sure that the public can be assured that people who are driving them around or doing other work that is, that could come in harm's way, that those people are free of alcohol and drug impairment when they do their jobs. And I think most people support that, and I support it, and I won't comment on the individual results because they are what they are. I'm never happy about the fact that anytime you do tests that are trying to sort of determine if people are following common sense and rules, that you find people who aren't. You never can be happy about that. But I think the purpose of the test was to determine, if there were people who were, doing what they shouldn't be doing, and to be able to reassure the public. So in that sense, I think when the people see a system that's working, they're not happy about the fact that somebody might have a problem with alcohol. They're not happy about the fact that person might have, breached the rules. But I think they can be reassured that first and foremost, their safety is being taken into account, and that's the purpose of this. And I'm, in that sense, I'm content that it's working the way it was intended to work. I will only say to you that in my time on the Police Services Board, we've had some discussion, and it's more in the context of people who end up in situations of impairment off the job. And, there's a big problem across society. We shouldn't single police officers or any other particular profession out for attention. There's a big problem in our society with people who have issues with alcohol, and for that matter with drugs. And that poses some safety risk, but more importantly, it's a deep personal problem for them and for their families. And I think, there's a related issue, I suppose, that says that, police officers, and then I guess you could go on through the list to firefighters and people who are driving city vehicles around. I mean, frankly, anybody who's driving a car or who is, out in the sort of public domain involving heavy construction work. So I think the problem with sort of singling out any particular group is to say, well, if you start there, where do you stop? I mean, what about people who are working on construction sites who are operating heavy equipment that are putting fellow workers at risk if they're impaired by alcohol? Do you test them? I think it's a serious problem, and it's a serious concern. But I think we have to be very careful to just kind of randomly say, well, sure, let's extend it to this group or to that group, because then you have to really examine, well, how is that consistent with not having everybody tested every morning, which really is not feasible or practical. But it's a serious problem, and I worry about it a lot because there are far too many people who have problems with alcohol, and I'm very sympathetic to that. I've had it, I've had it in my own family going back historically, and I'll bet you most Torontonians have somewhere. But I just think we have to be careful with kind of solutions that say, let's pick another group. TTC was an obvious group because they're transporting large numbers of the public every single day in vehicles, 50 at a time, and I think, or more. And so I think that was a logical place to start, and so for now, we'll leave it at that. Any other questions? I thank you very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.